Hi again, everybody. I'm Chuck Guglielmo, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck, a weekly interview show with interesting people. And today I have a very interesting person. His name is Boyd Griffith, Conneaut High School graduate of 1991. 91, yeah. Conneaut High School graduate, and soon to be elected into the Ashtabula County Basketball Hall of Fame. Boyd, let's go back to your freshman year, which would have been, what, 88, 89, 87, 88?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's where it all started for me, because your parents, who would tape your games there at Garcia Gymnasium, and I would be sitting there with them,
right, just
talking. And I think after a couple games, your mom would ask me, how about doing the games with the microphone with your dad? So that's how it really got started for me, and it was so exciting. Now, when you were playing on the freshman, as a freshman, Matt Zapatelli was still there?
Well, actually, as a freshman, because ninth grade was at Rao at the time, so I actually didn't play at the high school. There was actually a ninth grade team. It was my sophomore year that when I went to the high school and played varsity there. Matt Zapatelli was a senior when I was in eighth grade, so I remember going to watch his games as an eighth grader. So that's how it was unique, because I didn't play at JV. We went from ninth grade at Rao over to the high school the following year as a sophomore. So that was kind of a unique situation.
Okay, and your coach was Greg Mason.
Greg Mason.
Your JV coach was
Roger Sterling.
And who was? I know Craig was on that team. Craig Fells. Give me a rundown of the players on that team. It's been so long.
Dusty Kazarowski was in my grade. Joe Zingaro was in my grade. Then it was Steve Ohanic was our point guard. Craig Fales, shooting guard. Rob Egger, Eric Hunt. That was kind of the main. John Picard was a senior. He was actually also a senior with me. So that was. I'm trying to think. There was. I don't want to miss anything, but just for the fact that we ran a lot of people through our, the style of play that we played, we needed a lot of people because it was really up and down.
Greg played a fast-paced game.
Absolutely. I think it was good because my junior year, Mo Wofford was there, and once Mo Wofford and Scott Pape left, some bigger guys, he kind of recognized how small we were, and he kind of needed to change the style of play. So it was really up and down. It was. I mean, I can't say enough about how much fun it was to play, it was a systems kind of thing. It was
offensive-minded type coach.
Yeah, we would get in trouble for not shooting. That was kind of the premise. The joke was he said he would sign papers for you to transfer to Geneva right now because they would, you got to pass the ball 5 different times before you saw. It was. I mean, if you passed up an open shot, you'd actually get in shape. I mean, he'd let you have it. So it was really fun. I mean, he wanted us to play defense. Our defense, we had different defensive schemes based on whatever shot we took. But defense, he would rather either, if you're not taking a charge, he doesn't want you to foul. He wants to get the ball out as quick as possible and just go. Really put the pressure on the other team. Kind of wear him down. Really was his approach. Conditioning was a big part of the beginning. We'd have practices where we wouldn't even use a basketball. We would just run, until then he would implement the basketball as far as, our style of play. It was really fun.
For some of our viewers who don't even know Greg Mason, he was a fiery type coach, wasn't he?
Oh,
he would get up and down and.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I remember throwing the clipboard in the air, just freaking out with the referees. Just really intense, and you really had to separate, the game, what he would do in the game versus practice or outside. I mean, there was the big joke in my family is there was a situation where on the bench, he's right there down there talking to us, and he literally was like, "You need to do this." And he had a pen in his hand, but he stabbed me right in the leg with a pen. So that was, but I mean, obviously, that was the kind of fiery, really passionate kind of coach that he. Really intense. I can't put into words how intense it was. So.
What was his discipline like? With you guys, if he had to discipline anybody for anything.
Late for practice was a little unique in the sense that which it came up often. Say Dusty was late for practice, he would watch us run. He didn't have to run, but we would have to run, so it was a kind of motivational thing to really look after each other as far as, take care of each other. Like, listen, man, you're hurting the team by being late, or, whether it's grades or any kind of discipline. That was kind of the way he kind of encouraged us to kind of police that kind of, the situation. So it was everything he did was unique. And, honestly, with the way today is, it's such a politically correct day we live in now, so it was quite different back then, I guess is a nice way to put it.
Well, speaking of today, I saw you at a recent game here not very long ago. And just that, what's been about 25 years you've been away from that.
Right.
Do you see differences in the game today from when you played?
Yeah, I haven't gone over the years as much as I would have liked to have. But honestly, it's hard to watch some of the games just from the lack of offense, or maybe it's a tempo thing, but
Scores are down.
way down, it seems.
Yeah.
No, we averaged like 84, 85 points a game, so that was really high, but when you get used to that kind of thing, we would have teams. St. John's would, play with us, Ashtabula would play with us, Harvard would play with us. They weren't trying to slow us down, so we scored 36 points in one quarter against Ashtabula. And there's some teams that don't score 36 points in a game.
In the whole four, yeah, exactly.
And I understand, defense maybe is more. It's more. Well, it's a lot of it's a style of how they want to play, but just not that one. It's not as fun to watch. I don't think.
It's hard to imagine with a 3-point playing effect that you wouldn't score more than 36,
right,
no matter what kind of style you play.
Yeah, and the NBA seems to really taking advantage of it in college also, the 3-point shot. I'm surprised that it hasn't come down to the high school a little bit more. And I don't know if it's the area, because I don't exactly see, games outside of the area, but a lot of Conneaut, Lakeside, Edgewood games, are primarily because I still live in the area, so it's frustrating because I'd like to see more up and down.
Sure.
It's fun to watch,
You mentioned a lot of the players that you played for. Do you have any contact with them today?
I talked to John Peacock a lot. He was a good friend of mine.
He's in Cleveland now?
Actually, New Jersey, New York City.
He was in Cleveland.
He was in Cleveland, yeah. Craig Fales is in Indiana. He's doing a lot of coaching. I think Dusty's been back and forth to Florida. He lives in Florida. He went overseas a couple different times. Not too much contact. Maybe around holidays once in a while, nothing too, it's not set in stone or anything like that. But when we get a chance, Facebook's a real big help. Facebook and social media actually helps out considerably as far as staying in touch with.
Sure. Let's go back and relive some of those games now. What do you remember? What would you walk away with saying, this was the most important part of my high school playing days? This was the most exciting thing I remember, either you or team-wise or both. Anything come to mind?
Well, my senior year was, because my sophomore and junior year, I was more of a role player. I think I averaged in the mid-teens, But my senior year, I don't want to say it focused around me, but everybody else would really look. It was set up really nice for me to be successful. So, we scored 100 points 3 different times. Those are big. I remember those a lot, and people, that just blows people's minds that they, like I said, with the 36 points or the low scoring. For us to score 100, it's just, some people just can't get it. They can't fathom that, happening or how you would do that. But, it was senior night against Jefferson. I scored 40 points. That was a big one. So, and it was fun because of the style that we played. My wife thinks I would shoot all the time. I was a ball hog, but anybody could score a lot of points with the system. Just how much we pushed the ball and offense first. And there was no bad shots. I don't want to say it. My cousin Rob Lawwell, he actually said that Craig Fales and I were the original Splash Brothers, with Golden State, because that's really similar type of offense. Just push. That 40 points is a big one. The times we scored 100. I'll tell you what, another one I remember really, the Edgewood games were probably what sticks out the most as far as the crowd, the energy, And that's another disappointing thing too. When I go to an Edgewood Conneaut game, or with my daughters, it's with the NEC, the way it fell apart. That's because sad. It's very sad because they're not gonna ever have that rivalry, that we used to have with the different teams. When we played Edgewood, if you weren't there by halftime of JV, you weren't getting a seat. I mean, I know we have a small
halftime of JV, about 5:30, I'd have to get there.
I mean, that was so. I remember shooting technical free throws, and just the place was just so loud. I mean, we have a small place, so it was in Edgewood, but that probably intensified it actually too. But it was just, those were the types of games that you just don't see anymore, where you have to, and like when Maz Zapatelli played, when they played Pymatuming, or when they were ranked in the state. I guess maybe with with Pape, Danny, and Lions, when they were there, they might have had some games along those lines. But boy, when we played Edgewood, it was, and they were always great games. They were in the 80s. It was a 2-point game at our place. It went overtime. We won by 2 points at their place. So, I mean, it's just, that rivalry was.
They always said you could throw out the records of the
Absolutely.
teams when those two teams played. Boyd, what about the stage crew? How much of a help were they for you guys?
That there's a good story with that as far as what we were missing. Probably I give a lot of credit to Coach House when he came in. We actually, and it didn't dawn on us when we were playing, I don't know why, we actually finished the game facing the stage crew. And as soon as Coach Houston got there, he flipped it around. So the game was finishing with the opposing team shooting to the stage crew.
Makes sense to me.
Doesn't it? And I can't believe why we didn't think of that at the time. But the stage crew was a big part of it was in the other team's head before they even got to the gym. So I think that was a big. Then the support that they gave contributed to. I think against maybe the more of a veteran team, it wouldn't have quite as much of an effect. But if you had some of a younger team come in, especially,
That's exactly what Tim Telbach was saying when I had him on. He said the exact same thing.
Right. They would look forward to showing the stage crew up or doing something, and that would kind of get them out of their game, I think, in a lot of cases, because they were more consumed with the stage crew than they were actually, executing what their coach wanted them to do sometimes. So my big thing is why we didn't finish the other way. I guess the comfort of them, they weren't going crazy while we were shooting our free throws at the end of the game. I guess that has some help, but I would think the reverse would be much more, affecting the game if they're just got signs or whatever, just going crazy with the other team shooting the free throws. So
we were talking about when you were in your sophomore year, you were averaging somewhere around 15, 18 points, and then I remember you scoring multiple times in the upper 20s and 30s. You could score driving to the basket. You could score from the perimeter, whether it's a long 2 or a 3. So you really had all the offensive weapons.
I think there's not a lot of. I was one of the taller guys, even at 6'3". I was one of the taller people in the. You'd have a Steve Hannick or an outlier once in a while from a different school that was considerably taller than me. But that was either our style of offense wouldn't let them set up to put somebody on me specifically. But because of my height, and because like you said, shooting 3-pointers or driving to the basket, if they put a taller defender on me, I can go outside, dribble, shoot, whatever the case may be. If it's a smaller person to try to stop that, then we can go down low, So it was a nice mix, depending on what they tried to, because even like a box and one was really hard to throw at us because of our style. We were not in the half court very often. We tried to avoid the half court actually offensively. We wanted to. When it was just, honestly, we did like a simple motion offense. But we really didn't work on a half court very often. It was more, how are we going to get, maybe our defensive strategy as far as, what was neat about our defenses we had like 3 different defenses we would run, and it was dictated by what kind of shot we took. So if it was an outside shot, we would run like man-to-man. If it was a layup, we would run a certain kind of press. If it was, that kind of setup. So we were always switching defenses, and we were always pressing. But he didn't need to tell us, It was set already based on what kind of shot we took, and that was a wide range of shots that we would take. And the only thing we had to do was get on the same page with each other as far as as we're coming back, what kind of defense we're all in, so we're on the same page. But that's.
I remember traveling to away games with your parents. You would take losing really tough. It would really bother you to have a loss, wouldn't it?
Yeah. My senior year, I think we were maybe 15-5 or so, right in that range, and we were battling for the NEC, and we got beat by Riverside twice. The Riverside game was tough.
Was that a 1-point loss by any chance at home?
No, that was actually a little bit.
Okay.
It was a little.
I remember a 1-point loss.
The Edgewood loss was like at the buzzer. That hurt too because that was a conference game too. Yeah, and even that. But I think the rivalry, because I played American Legion baseball in the summer, so I knew I know a lot of people throughout the year because they're on my baseball team, and then you see them throughout the basketball. A lot of it's bragging rights too, as far as because Edgewood actually went to regionals that year. My senior year, Edgewood went to regionals, but we feel they stole one at our place and we beat them at their place. So I mean that. And we lost to Harbor in the sectionals or whatever, and that was just losing to teams that you should beat them. If you play how you're capable of playing, you can beat them, and that was probably one of the hardest things that even today when I'm watching my girls play or I'm watching any team, whether it's the NBA or NFL, when if you play the way you're capable of playing, you should beat that team, almost all the time. When you lose games like that, that's an issue. I always think so.
Now, you guys always had better than a 500 record. Am I correct on that? But never did win an NEC?
Yeah, my sophomore year, I think we were under 500. But when we had Scott Pape and Mo Wofford, we were above 500. And like I said, I think it was 15-5. Yeah, 15-5. I think maybe 15-6 with the playoff games. That's another thing too. We never got a chance to go very far once playoffs started too. We lost our first game because we would get a bye. We had a nice record. Then we lost our first game to Harbors and things like that. That's hard to swallow too. It's because one of your last games is not feeling like you played how you're capable of playing individually and as a team. So not that we could have won the state championship or anything like that, but it would have been fun to continue on, obviously. So, they just stuck with some of the losses that we shouldn't lose. And we were capable of beating everybody in the league. We did beat every league except Riverside that year. So,
well, the era you played was probably one of our seasons where we won more games than we lost since the late 60s and early 70s. Then you guys came along. I mean, there may have been a team in there or two before you guys that was pretty good. You guys came along, but then right after you guys was what they call Dream Team 1 here in Conneaut,
right,
which was very good. And then we had a Dream Team 2
with Tom Church
in the early 2000s, and then not much since.
Right. I would come to see Tom Church as much because I really liked. I think we had a similar style. He was tall. And he could shoot threes. And he could drive. I think he was
also coached in Conneaut for like a year or two.
It was fun to watch him play. With Dream Team 1, as you say, they were. I mean, now that team, they were fun to watch. They could have scored 100. I don't know how many times if they wanted to, and it was really a mismatch. Until they went to the playoffs. I actually watched them. Saw them lose to Benedictine, and I felt that they had a really rough. It was a bad draw. Is really all it was, because when in the early '90s when we would go to sectionals or whatever, we went south. We went through Youngstown. Well, they switched it, and then they had to go through Cleveland when those guys were there. So that took them right into Benedictine, Cleveland, St. Joe's.
I'm thinking they lost that Benedictine game, and it came back and
made it close. It was close. Yeah.
Chris Anthony, I think, missed the layup.
I think
could
that
have tied the
sounds
game
right.
or something.
Actually, yeah, that was that. And there was St. Joe's, Benedictine, and Conneaut, and they were, I think, number 2 in the state at the time, all at the Cleveland districts. So a lot of people felt like the state championship was played in Madison that year because it was just so loaded. If they would have had to have gone through Youngstown, I have no doubt they would have been at least the Final Four, something along those lines. It was impressive to watch them play. They were, their second string probably could have won the NEC, you know what I mean? That's how deep, they were deep too, so.
Who was that one player you wanted to beat? Is there anybody that stands out in the NEC or that you looked forward to going up against? And
yeah, Probably, gosh, like I said, with my American Legion, my baseball ties, there was really a lot of friendly trash talk. It never really got too crazy. I know, like Ray Isco from the Harbor. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes,
he really got wound up to guard me. You know what I mean? You could tell he would tell me about it, and he would say what he's going to do, and you could tell, that once the game would start, he's like, the ball's nowhere near me, and he's in my face. Things along those lines. I think I actually want to take that back. And as far as Ashtabula I really wanted to beat Ashtabula too, because they talked a lot of trash, I guess, as far as before the games. And Mason, I think Mason really, I know Harvey was probably who he wanted to beat the most, because I don't think he liked D'Angelo very well, their coach at the time. But he always talked about Harvey and Ashtabula. If he ever had a chance to run the score up, he would take advantage of that. And our style, when we would force our style on a team like Ashtabula, who traditionally likes to run up and down the floor and shoot a lot of threes and things like that, when we were able to get them to where they were tired, they were sucking wind, the fourth quarter is when it really kicked in. That was probably, I think, just with him wanting to beat them so bad, that kind of, we wanted to beat them just as bad for him kind of sometimes. And plus, like I said, with the trash talking, it was fun to really to give it to them, you know what I mean? So, and then, I had a hard time like sophomore year when we got beat up pretty good by a lot of teams. It comes around, goes around kind of thing too. There's cycles in high school, and when we got a chance to, I don't want to say revenge, but it was fun beating Ashtabula teams, really, at the Ashtabula Panthers.
There are cycles.
Yeah.
There definitely are cycles. But
Very.
How long do they last when they're in the losing end?
It's
been quite a long time.
I didn't, and I don't know if it's the style. Like I said, if you don't have a
Excuse me.
a dominant player, I mean, and I honestly, I know Tim Talbot is an excellent coach. I haven't really seen a lot of his games, but I know he's got the program in the right direction. He's
kind of like a Greg Mason type coach.
Yeah, and I think like when I'm working with my girls as far as softball they play, any sport they play, I think I'm more of a old school kind of traditional, and I get that thing from Mason and how we were coached, and I see that in Tim Talbot also, and I can appreciate that, I guess, is my point. So, but the cycles, the football team seems to be coming out of it.
Oh yeah, they've had 3 great years.
And they were really down. I know when
Yes.
they beat Lakeside a couple times when Lakeside first originally formed, but then they just, the numbers are a big issue.
Numbers
obviously.
went way up
Yeah.
with the new coach coming in here about 5-6 years ago. Yes,
I'd
they've
like
done
to,
a great job.
I'd like to know, if some of that can rub off on Lakeside, because Lakeside's having an issue. That's my daughters go to Lakeside because I live in Ashtabula Harbor. Their sports programs it's a numbers. A lot of it's a numbers thing. That's why teams like Manor or the bigger schools, the numbers play a big part of it. Obviously you'll have your ups and downs with the kind of players that come through, but I think a lot of it is the youth program or the involvement with the high school coaches in the youth program, and just the numbers are a big part of it. Absolutely, battle of attrition sometimes, especially in football.
Now, Boyd, you played baseball for the Spartans as well, right? Mm-hmm. And was that Joel Taylor your coach back
That was
then?
Joel Taylor's, let's see, my junior year was his first year. So we, and my senior year was the second year, and we won the NEC my senior year.
What position were you? I don't remember covering any baseball games.
Yeah, primarily I pitched, center field. See, for my American Legion team, I played most of the outfield, but for the high school, I pitched quite a bit. And actually, I think my shoulders, I could blame Joel Taylor for my shoulders for pitching too much.
How were our teams when you played?
We were 500 actually Mason was our baseball coach my sophomore year, and I think that was just out of necessity. But
Craig was on that team too, right?
Craig Vales? Yes, yeah, he was.
And Steve?
And Steve Ohanic. We had a really nice group of ball players. My junior year, we were 500. I remember that. But the key was we returned everybody. We returned everybody and we had high expectations for that year, and it played out pretty about how we thought it would. There was a lot of good players on that team. Steve Mitrovich, Jason Jackson. That Jason Jackson is I forgot about playing basketball.
I remember that name.
He was
JJ.
I think he was a sophomore. He contributed a lot for
Yes,
basketball.
he did.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
needed him tremendously.
JJ.
He was an amazing baseball player too.
JJ on the drive for a little guy. He wasn't all that big of a guy.
No, not too big. I think he got a little bigger, but as a sophomore, no, he was small. Good free throw shooter.
Yeah, he was.
It's not a big thing. Free throws are a big part of our
Speaking
success
of
too.
free throw shooting, you mentioned Steve Wahonick.
Mm-hmm.
Now he had an uncanny. Didn't he shoot one-handed free throws?
He struggled mightily, or like in his early in his career. He actually went to that one hand free throw, and
So I am remembering correctly.
yeah, and it's kind of critical that your point guard can make free throws at the end of a game too. Somebody that's handling the ball the most. So he eventually got to be pretty successful with it. I mean, I think that was, along with our style and 3-pointers, that was a big part of our game too. We shot like 70% as a team.
Yeah, and today, not just here in Conneaut, teams struggle at the free throw. The Cleveland Cavaliers struggle at the free throw line.
I don't understand how they can, especially professional athletes for sure. But we had to take free throws when we were exhausted. That was a big part of it. We had to swish so many. There was different things we had to do before we could leave. And he really hammered that. Mason really hammered that home too. I think that's the old school, fundamental, not flashy part of the game is that I can appreciate, and I think added to our success for sure. And that's a lot of his confidence. I see a lot of confidence being a major issue in any sport, but Steve Wahonick's confidence that different style helped him. That was interesting. I mean, you felt for him too, because he was early on. He was going through some struggles, and you can see, it's. I would like to think that it's in the NBA a lot. It's mostly mental, because obviously physically they can make the shot. But you would think that why don't they just take 1,000 free throws in practice, or why don't they not? It's pretty amazing.
Somebody was telling me that they miss them. One of the reasons they miss is because they're playing defense so hard, and when they go to the line, they're tired. Do you buy into that?
Well, like I said, if you practice your free throws when you're exhausted, I mean, literally get done whatever suicides or sprints you had to do. I mean, to where you just can't wait to get a drink of water or take a break or whatever. Got to go to the line right there. You know what I mean? And then not only got to go to the line when you're tired, you got to have a certain percentage before you can stop practicing free throws, things like that too. Where a lot of I don't want to say threats, but if you didn't make a certain amount, we would run more. And so I just can't. I don't have the answer. I guess sports psychology would be a good profession to go into, I think.
The coaches I've talked to don't really have the answer for it either. Because Tim has said it. I've talked to the Jefferson coach. They said that's all they practice on is free throws.
But professionally, how can professional athletes not?
Yeah.
How can they shoot 50%? I can do that. I mean, underhand. My daughter could do that probably for sure.
Look at LeBron. He can't even make free throws.
Some of it's clutch, but as for even forget about clutch, their overall percentage is just not where it should be.
Well, Boyd, as I said, is going to be soon to be elected into the Hall of Fame here coming up on April 3rd. How excited are you? First of all, when did you get the news? Who did you get the news from, and how excited are you about it?
Let's see. I got the news probably. I bet it's almost been 2 months now. Maybe maybe more. It was towards the end of the last calendar year. Nick Irochi gave me a call, and he gave me the news. And first of all, I was like, "Oh, do I have to do a speech? When you know what I mean?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I got to do?" You know what I mean? And I just got the details as far as the newspaper. Chris Larrick gave me a call and did an interview. I was excited. My parents are probably more excited than I am. They're ecstatic actually. They live in Florida.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And honestly, I got a hold of you on Facebook, and Roger Sterling were probably the first two people. Actually, my parents, but you and Roger Sterling were the first two people that I contacted or reached out to, just to give them the good news, because I felt it wasn't everybody that shared him that enjoyed that time would enjoy the Hall of Fame, the nominees. So it's exciting. I'm excited. My parents they live in Florida in the winter, and they usually come home in May, but they're coming home in April and actually going back because they want to go to the banquet and everything. So very excited. My family's excited.
I can't wait for it. I'll tell you that right now. I can't wait.
Thank you.
Well, boy, this has been fun.
Oh, yeah, very fun.
Appreciate you coming in. Okay, worked
Anytime.
midnights, giving up sleep to come in here on a 4:30 afternoon on a Monday. So thanks again for being my guest.
No problem. Thank you
Boyd
for having me.
Griffith, soon to be Hall of Famer of Ashtabula County basketball. This is Chuck Guglielmo saying, see you next week on Around the Town with Chuck.